on today's Arts24, a musical polymath and an icon of British popular music. Graham Coxon is one of the founding members of Blur, pioneers of the Britpop movement that dominated the 90s music scene. A solo artist in his own right, Graham Coxon has released 9 studio albums and 3 soundtracks over the last 2 decades. Now, for the first time, he is re-releasing his entire solo catalogue, as well as a new record, Castle Park, locked away in the musical vaults for more than 15 years. Graham Coxon, hello. Thanks for speaking to us on France 24.
It's a pleasure.
You're about to release Castle Park, recorded all the way back in 2011. Why the 15-year delay?
Why, yeah, I don't know, really. I recorded all of these 10 songs as part of 20 songs, and the other 10 came out as an album called A and E, or in France they call it A plus E. And they just sort of sat there on their own, called Castle Park. And then other things happened, like Blur started doing something, and then I moved on and did something else, and then I think I started soundtrack work, and I was always getting hassled by fans on Twitter or other sort of social media things to put it out. And then suddenly the opportunity came about because of polishing up all the old back catalogue and all the old albums, and it seemed like a good idea to get that one out too.
And you mentioned it was recorded at the same time as A&E, and for me it does feel like 2 very different records.
Yeah, it was really odd how these 10 songs were like, actually were sort of written on bass and are a little bit more chaotic and noisy. Then there was these other ones that seemed to sit in a more of a sort of an indie 60s influenced era. Yeah, it's odd because they were recorded all higgledy-piggledy at the same time, and then they just came out, and A&E was sort of mixed digitally, and Castle Park was mixed to a tape, so it had that for it too. But it is odd that they were such different sort of collections of songs.
I don't see the light that shines from his behind. I don't see the
What I also love about this album release is that it comes with these exclusive postcards, very kind of British scenery. And I know that you also design your album covers. How much does your art and music kind of intertwine with each other?
I like those old 60s postcards where the lithography is kind of not perfect and it's not lined up that well, and there's sort of bleed from all the different colours. But I used to draw when I was a kid to communicate my feelings, and I'd listen to music so I could get what the rest of the world was feeling. So that was my interaction.
Well, what's great is that we have the new album, but we're also going to be revisiting all your solo work, starting with The Sky's Too High and The Golden D. How does it feel revisiting your early works? Are you someone who is quite nostalgic?
No, I find it odd. It sort of seems like it's about 4 lives ago. But it does take me back to just a kitchen table. Most of these things I do on the kitchen table, but at that point, this tiny little plastic 4-track thing, and trying to write songs. And Are You Lonely, I remember thinking, this is quite a nice song, and that's on that first album. But The Golden D, I think, just came about from watching skate videos, which would go from different parts, and people would choose their own music. So it would go from hip-hop to like Iron Maiden to Santana to sort of like some death metal, and then to so it genre hop in such an amazing way. So that's what that album was about, really.
nothing to lose, nothing to gain, nothing to feel, nothing to hate, nothing is real, it's all too late.
All of my solo albums have always been a sort of a diary, really, or some sort of expression of how I feel. They were never meant to be huge hits or anything. Really, they were just me learning in public how to write songs, which is not a great idea. I started off writing because a friend of mine had written a script for a film, and he said to me, "You're in that music game, write us a couple of songs." And I thought, oh, okay. And so I tried to write a couple of songs, and then I couldn't stop, really.
If you were talking to a new Graham Coxon fan, which of this back catalogue of yours would you recommend they start with?
Spinning Top is nice because it's when I started to become a little less control freakish about everything, and I let other musicians express themselves a little bit. You know, I had indie musicians on it, Dilruba players, and really just explored a lot of interesting stuff for me sonically. So that's a good place to start, and then go right to the beginning.
Out of the sea and into the tree flew your perfect love for me. Out of the sea and into the tree flew your perfect love, flew your perfect love. I met you and you met me, we sang in perfect harmony.
I believe two albums were recorded whilst you were still in Blur. What was it like recording your solo work while still being in a band? Is it quite a cathartic experience to be able to kind of express yourself through your own work?
Yeah, I suppose it was woodshedding for me, that stuff, just in public, which is odd. The first album I did, Damon came to the studio and listened to some of the songs, and I was like, you know, if any of these might work for Blur, then let's try them out with Blur. And he was like, nah. so it was just, and I wasn't even going to really put the album out. I was going to put it under some other name.
Oh, interesting.
But my manager at that point, who was still my manager actually, said, no, just sort of own it and just put it out.
What would have been your fake name?
I don't know, Leicester Square. No, someone's called Leicester Square already, aren't they?
Your music is very quintessentially British. This year marks 10 years since Brexit. How does it feel being British? What does it mean to be a British musician?
It means you can't afford to play outside Britain anymore, which is a drag.
But it's a real problem that we're seeing more and
Yeah.
more of touring for artists.
I mean, I'd love to tour with my band, The Wave, and Rose and I would love to come over here and play and go lots of other places, but it seems sort of practically impossible and financially just really, really difficult. Obviously, it's pretty complicated being British and obviously being kind of fond of a lot of the sort of folk history and of a country that just seems so sort of divided and weird, and getting ever more so, if that's possible.
In your memoir in 2022, Verse, Chorus, Monster, you look back at kind of the height of fame with Blur, and you had this kind of disillusionment with the music industry. I'm interested to know now, how do you see the music industry? Have you seen it becoming better in terms of supporting artists over the years, or is there still a long way to go?
My opinion of it is terrible. I can't wait to escape it. It's in a nice way, just slip away. And it's not that I wouldn't want to play music or anything like that. It just seems, unless you're massive, you know, a massive act, it's just more and more difficult. England is like, doesn't really seem to care about one of their greatest assets or their greatest exports. They just sort of seem to think that musicians are better under pressure, or when they're treated badly, or when they're skint.
I really want to talk about your work with War Child. You worked on 2 songs on the album Help 2, on Olivia Rodrigo's cover of Book of Love. And you also collaborated with a British band, English Teacher, on Parasite. What was that experience like? And especially working with English Teacher, this kind of next generation of British bands.
They were really nice. Yeah, they were very supportive. We just went in with David Wrench, I think, and they were all sitting on the sofa, and we sort of came up with some ideas and had a chat. They were really nice, very professional. Olivia was very professional. They were all very professional. Yeah, for much more professional than I was when I was that sort of age. We just thought sort of, you know, chaos and throwing our guitars around and was the way to do it. But people seem a lot more measured and sensible these days.
You also are in the band with your partner, Rose Eleanor Dougal, for The Wave. You dropped your debut in 2023, a follow-up in 2024. What is it like working with a loved one? Do you influence each other musically in ways that you didn't really expect to?
Of course, I mean, she's got really, really good taste in music. So when we got together to write, I was very aware of that. I was very aware also not to cover the music with loads of guitars, leave lots of space, but also rely on her on keyboards and piano to expand things harmonically a little more than I could on the guitar.
Every one of you in Blur have pursued, your own careers. You last performed together in 2024 at Coachella, and I believe that Damon kind of shot down at the time an idea of more Blur music, more shows. But I have to ask you, are we going to have more Blur tours, more Blur albums?
Yeah, I'm with him on that.
That's very sad for us to hear.
Well, it's not that. It's just we see what happens. You know, we work on something, and then I think what we do is we go off and do our own thing and learn some more bits, and then so that maybe we've got something to bring to the table if another Blur thing happens. For what's the usual gap? 8 years.
Graham Coxon, thank you so much for speaking to us on Facts 24.